way back before I was born, my grandmother, she had an older brother, and he actually was her younger brother. I believe he was the baby of the family. There was 5 children. They grew up in Chandler, Oklahoma, and then Miami, Oklahoma. And my great-grandmother obviously had her own home, and she would always cook for the family. And so when they would get together, they would have a whole bunch of people come over. And so when my Uncle Bill and my Uncle Jess, they were stationed at Pearl Harbor when the bombing occurred and the war started, and they were separated at that time. And my one uncle went off to Japan, and while he was there, and he was the one that kind of wanted to spoil my great-grandmother a lot, he decided to buy this china for her from where he was stationed. When he would have shore leave, he would go into, and he was in the Army, but he would get off the base and he would go in and do some shopping, and he would buy some things for my great-grandmother. And he ended up buying china for his mom, my great-grandmother, and his 3 sisters. The reason that my Uncle Bill brought that much china back to begin with was, and he was very smart about it, because when he would go to dinner at my great-grandmother's house, and she had a little tiny house in Miami, Oklahoma, and we went there sometimes just for Sunday dinner. It's about a 2-hour drive from Tulsa. We would all pile in the car, and we would go down there, and we would eat in their little tiny house in Miami, Oklahoma. And back then, the dining room was a very big, important feature of a home. And we always sat around her dining room table, and there was always 20, 25 people around that table. So a set for 24 was very extravagant at the time. Not a lot of people had that, but my uncle made sure that when they came to sit down together and eat, that she had a set of china that would fit for everyone, because we had a huge family. And so and my aunt had 4 children. So when we all got together, you needed a place setting for 24. And I remember, and my sister and I were talking about it last night, Sharon and I, about going to Miami, and even as little kids, sitting with the grown-ups around this huge table with my little tiny short great-grandmother, and all the women wore aprons, running in and out of the kitchen to fill up platters to put on the table. We all sat around the table, even the little tiniest one. And we laughed because so many times we would fall off the phone books, because we would be stacked up on these phone books and books. That's one of the things, whoever set the table would stack up books for us to sit on so that we could eat, and we ate off this china when we were little. I mean, I was probably, from 3 years old on, allowed to sit in there with them at the table. There were 9 children in my family, and at this time, there was only 4 of us living in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and then my mother and one of my sisters were living in Mexico, Missouri. And so when we inherited this from my grandmother when she passed away, all of this china was just laid out on the dining room table, and my mother wasn't sure what to do with it because she wasn't living here at the time. And so she decided that she would just give each of us children that were there a place setting. Well, none of us really knew what to do with one place setting, but it was kind of cool. I brought it home, put it in the cabinet, and knew that it was from my grandmother, and that also my great aunts and my great-grandmother each had a set. So basically from that 24 place setting of china that belonged to my grandmother, my aunt got 12, and she took it home and gave it to her children. And then my mother had 12 and gave it to our children. Well, she still wasn't sure what to do with the remaining 6 place settings. So she packed them up in a box and stored them away, hoping to take them to Mexico, but ended up leaving them in the garage, stuck back in a corner. And my brother, Jim, as it turned out, bought the house from my aunt so that it would always be in our family for my mother, which is a great thing for him to do. He didn't have to do that, but he did, and it was wonderful. So my mom, when she packed these things away and stuck them out in the corner of the garage, thought they would always be there and she wouldn't have to worry about them. And that's precisely what she did. She completely forgot that they were there, and she moved back from Missouri to Tulsa, lived in that home until she passed away. And it wasn't until I was handling her estate that we found all of these. So, and it was kind of a yuck story. My sister and I were cleaning out the house and packing things away. We took a lot of things to antique, stores to sell for her estate. And as we got to the garage, at the back wall of the garage had collapsed somehow towards the end, and we think it was like squirrels or raccoons. All this dirt was just piled in from the back, and it had gotten wet, and it was smelly, and it was yuck, and I'm not that kind of person, so I did not want to touch it, but we kind of had to. So, and we had books, and there was so much stuff out there, we didn't know what we were going to find. And we worked about, 4 or 5 days cleaning all this stuff out. And there was this one row of boxes that were just disgusting. And I finally decided I was just going to throw them away. And I told her, I said, I'm not doing it. I'm throwing them away. She goes, no, we have to. And I wish she was here today because she's the one responsible for us finding these, because I didn't want to have anything to do with it. So we pulled it out of there, shoveled all the dirt off, uncovered it, and I'm wearing gloves. And I'm like opening it up, and I'm going, oh my gosh, I think this is a teacup. And so I had to take my gloves off. I was afraid I was going to break it. And sure enough, it was a teacup, like that one right there. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is that pink china. And we were just elated to find it. And so we got it all washed off and put together, and then brought it out, and was just super, super excited. And I have up in the cabinet with the 4 sets I got from my other brothers and sisters and myself, and there in that box there were 6, so I have 10. And then my other sister in Missouri has the last 2 remaining place settings. So someday I would really love to buy, would love to find and purchase the remainder to have the original 12 back. And I do remember one story about one of our Thanksgivings. Every year, it's kind of hard to decide which china to use. And I have my own wedding china that hasn't been used in years because we just love to use my grandparents. So one year, we had no idea which china we were going to use, and we decided to use something from every family. So on our table was different plates from different collections, different drinking glasses, different salt and pepper shakers, different butter dishes from all of our grandparents. On my mother's side and my father's side, as far back as my great-great-grandmother. And that's pretty fun, so I really do enjoy using them.
Hey everybody, and thanks for joining us for our latest video where we bring you the best of the old, the new, the odd, and the wonderful. So if you're interested in this video or our channel, go ahead and subscribe below. Also, if you need an appraisal done or if you have items that you need restored, you can go to our website because we also offer service, and that is at KerstensAntiques.com. That's KAAntiques.com. You can also follow us on all of our social media platforms for the newest and the latest and the greatest on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We also do contests where you can win really cool stuff like this. Signed balls, shot glasses, or even a t-shirt. So go ahead, follow us today, get with it, and we're going to be bringing you new content every day. Thanks.